So hello everyone and welcome to today's session on Making Cities Resilient 2030, or what we call in short MCR 2030, engaging with local governments in Africa. This webinar will be conducted only in English, so my apologies to our Francophone colleagues, but we promise to organize a similar webinar in both French and Portuguese very soon. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate. You will have the opportunity to engage with us by typing your questions in the Q&A panel. And you can also send your questions anytime during the presentations, and we'll address them towards the end of the session. I'd also like to inform you that a recorded version of this webinar will be made available. My name is Isabel Njihia from UNDRR Regional Office for Africa, and I will be your moderator. For those of you just joining us, please welcome. With the goal of ensuring cities become inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable by 2030, Making Cities Resilient 2030, or MCR 2030, provides an innovative and pragmatic approach to resilience at the local level. Through a three-stage resilience roadmap, MCR 2030 supports cities to achieve better resilience by gaining access to a range of tools and technical advisory inputs delivered by different partners, and also encourages peer exchanges between cities on the progress along the resilience roadmap. The objectives of this session are to provide an overview of MCR 2030 in terms of what it entails and how it helps cities strengthen risk reduction and resilience, and to demonstrate how cities can join the MCR 2030 and access resources from partner organizations through the online dashboard. To break this down for us, I have my two colleagues today with us, Mr. Andrew McElroy and Ms. Mutarika Pruksapong, who will be speaking to us today. To kick us off, we will now hear from Andrew McElroy, who will give us an overview of the MCR 2030 initiative and why we need to engage. Andy, please welcome.
Great, thank you, Isabel, and hello, everybody. Let me just make sure I share the correct presentation with you. Okay. Isabel, is that coming through okay, and you can see and hear okay?
Yes,
just
yes,
to check.
fine.
Great, terrific. So, well, I think it's a good morning to many of you, but I'm speaking from South Korea. It's a good afternoon from here. So it's really great to be online today with Isabel. It's just great working with Isabel. She's so passionate about MCR 2030, and you have a great partner based out of Nairobi in support of you, and Mai, who will speak a little bit after me, and myself. We're based in South Korea. And our job really is to provide support to Isabel in Africa and our colleagues across the world. So I would imagine I'll speak for about 15 minutes or so. I know in virtual settings, we're all a little bit saturated with information and it's a bit hard to absorb too much. So hopefully I'll just focus on some key messages. And as Isabel said, we're happy to take questions during today's session or indeed afterwards. So this is Making Cities Resilient 2030, and we say this is about leaving no city behind. We're more familiar with Leave No One Behind, the vulnerability agenda, and it very much applies to cities as well, to local governments, to municipalities. So let's take a look. So let me spend 1 minute just to build a bit of context and a little bit of history. So you may be quite familiar with Making Cities Resilient as a brand name, because the initial campaign was launched 11 years ago, actually in May 2010. There's a photo from the launch in Germany, in Bonn. And this initial campaign was very much focused on advocacy, lifting the awareness of the importance of not just waiting for disasters to happen and then responding, but really trying to understand local disaster and climate risk and taking action across different sectors before the disaster came, so the impact was either prevented or limited. But it was very much focused on awareness raising rather than doing things. And that's probably the big difference between the original MCR campaign and MCR 2030, as we now call it. So it was, I think, quite successful, the original MCR campaign. There were 4,370, something like that, cities that joined. So it was genuinely a global campaign. So that's just the history, the background to where we are today. And as I said, we could call it a vibrant initiative that raised awareness on disaster resilience. So not only did it attract many cities from Africa and around the world, but also many partners. And there are some of the names and the logos of partners on the screen there. Some of them quite familiar to you, I'm sure. So let's maybe move to where we are now, and to try and cut through this information overload, I've picked out what I think are 10 things to know about MCR 2030 that I think positions it as something a little bit different and potentially a little bit special. So the first point to emphasize is this is a growing and long-term, that's key, a long-term global partnership, and it has 380 or so cities with a population of more than 170 million. It's still in its first year, and momentum is growing all the time. Last Friday here in Korea, for example, we had a session with Korean cities that attracted 30 new cities. So in this first point, I just want to emphasize that term long-term, because as we approach COP26 in the UK next month, there are a lot of short-term initiatives, which is raising the issue of urban resilience, and that's fantastic. It's great. But MCR 2030 is just about as much about the road from Glasgow as the road to Glasgow. This is a long-term partnership, and as Isabel said, this is all around SDG 11, which will take us to 2030. That is indeed why we call it MCR 2030. And point two, Isabel said it beautifully in her opening. This is a program, this is a platform, this is a partnership that really speaks explicitly to Sustainable Development Goal 11. It is about making cities or supporting cities and urban spaces to be more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So key message number two, MCR 2030 is about accelerating progress against this very important SDG. And point number three is also really important because, you know, we've seen a lot of campaigns that perhaps focus on the famous cities around the world, you know, the high profile, big capital cities. And again, that's fantastic. And again, our organization, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, UNDRR, as we're known, has been part and supportive of these campaigns. But this MCR 2030 is, as we said in point one, is more long-term and it's inclusive. It really aims to leave no city behind or alone. Its members are big and small, and this is a partnership for all local governments. And I've just spent the last 4 years working in the Pacific in small islands. So this is very much a program for cities literally of 10 or 15,000 population, as it is for some of the really big cities of several million. So in your countries in Africa, this is not just about the big cities, the capital cities. This is about all municipalities in your country. And I think that's a real strength. So moving on to point four, and, you know, I'm sure, Isabel, there's a lot of experience on the line here, a lot of real world experience. And so this is a point that I think will speak to your experience and the reality. And that is MCR 2030 is based on one key fact, I would say, and that is disaster prevention is an investment and not a cost. We spend so much on responding to disasters and more about the sort of doing something after something's happened instead of focusing on upfront work to prevent and reduce risk. And I think that is a great opportunity of MCR 2030 if we strengthen the approach to resilience in terms of policy and action. It's an investment. It saves lives, it saves money, protects livelihoods, and it keeps people out of poverty. So that's a huge point of MCR 2030. It is about supporting an investment in disaster resilience. The fifth point, and it builds on the opening of my briefing, that the original MCR was about awareness raising, and still we need to do that. We certainly are not there yet. So we need to continue to raise the awareness of the importance of disaster resilience, prevention and reduction of risk. But this MCR 2030 is very much about implementation. It's about action to reduce disaster and climate risk, because it's very late in terms of the climate emergency, and we really, as we all know, need to start doing things now, and we have to start doing things together and start doing things well. I think point six is one of the strengths that maybe is not shared in other such initiatives, and that is MCR 2030 recognizes that each city, big or small, in Africa, Asia, or wherever, is different. Every city is particular. And there is space for every city to develop their own vision of disaster resilience. And MCR 2030 provides an overall pathway to help cities move along that resilience journey. But every city's vision of resilience is probably quite slightly different, and MCR 2030 acknowledges that. And point seven is we have an online dashboard that in a sense is a marketplace, if you like, for cities, that gives them greater access to knowledge, experience, networks, tools, resources, and services that can help cities progress along their resilience journey. So that point really sees how it has evolved significantly from the original MCR, which was just about advocacy and awareness raising. And I think point eight is just to give a shout out to all of the partners who are on board in this initiative. Of course, the United Nations, who we represent, but there are other development partners there, academia, and I've bolded up particularly the private sector, because I think that link and access to private sector tools, services, and products is really important. And of course, For many of these, there will be a charge, but it's interesting that our experience of liaising with cities is there is huge scope for supporting cities to be aware of the products and services that are out there, and then to be able to make an informed choice on what such products and services that would be appropriate for them. And that could be in partnership with development partners, but I think that private sector angle is really critical for MCR 2030, and indeed in general for the whole Sustainable Development Goal agenda, I would say. And point 9 just references some of the many technical services that are already available on the platform, and it could include support on climate scenario planning. It could include support in terms of accessing finance, in terms of green bonds, for example. Could be in terms of support of revising building codes to be more seismic ready, let's say, in some areas. And then clearly, in view of what's happened over the last almost 2 years, there is the possibility of support to integrate better health hazards into local government disaster risk reduction planning. And the final point of the 10 things we would like to just sort of put up front for you to consider MCR 2030 as an opportunity in your work and in your countries is that this is a partnership of 11 core partners, of which UNDRR, the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction, is one. And we are, Isabel, myself, Mai, and others around the world, we are the secretariat for the whole of MCR 2030. So just to add a couple more points, there's a lot of information on that slide. Don't expect everybody to digest that, but let me just pick out the main points, at least as I see it. You'll see at the top the blue boxes for cities knowing better, cities planning better, cities implementing better. And this, in a sense, is the resilience pathway we referred to earlier in a nutshell. And the MCR 2030 has a classification, if you like, of 3 stages a city goes through on its journey to resilience, with stage A cities needing to perhaps raise awareness and commitment to prevent and reduce disaster risk. Stage B cities evolving their plans to across sectors and at different levels to address that risk. And then finally, of course, the ultimate need and opportunity is the need for climate and disaster action. The so-called stage C cities actually implementing to reduce their disaster risk, which translates into saving lives, protecting livelihoods, protecting the hard-earned development of cities and cities that are more and more resource constrained. And then we have that blue star in the top right-hand corner, which is what this is all about, the ultimate impact. And this is, if you like, about achieving Sustainable Development Goal 11. And the clock is ticking. We've got 8 or so years left on the whole SDG agenda. And I think it's fair to say we still have a fair bit of work to do on SDG 11 and indeed all 17 SDGs. So just to share who are these core partners, and you can see that's a pretty impressive lineup. You've got the UN agencies on the bottom line, ourselves, UN Habitat and UNOPS, and then some real heavyweight partners who've got a lot of expertise and experience in supporting urban resilient and sustainable development. So this is a serious, if you like, heavyweight partnership that really is determined for each of these partners to bring their individual capacity and comparative advantage, but more than that, to find ways of working together so that we can collaboratively better support cities in Africa and indeed around the world. And I think this is my last slide, and it's just to give a sense of the governance arrangement of MCR 2030, and those 11 core partners on the previous slide form this global coordinating committee, the top box, which sets the strategic direction of MCR 2030 globally. But I just want to draw your attention to the boxes beneath that, and particularly the one on the left, and that is for the Regional Coordinating Committee for Africa. And Isabel and ourselves and the team are convening the first meeting of this, as it's called, RCC, Regional Coordinating Committee of Africa, for next week. And I think this is, again, a really important point, because these regional coordinating committees are in touch with the opportunities and realities of the context in Africa, far more so than we are at the global secretariat level. And I think once this Regional Coordinating Committee for Africa gets up and running, that will really drive and provide more effective support to countries and local governments across your region, which I think is really exciting. So Isabel, I'll wrap up there. I hope that sort of set us up for today's discussion, and thank you very much. Back to you, Isabel.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much for that overview. Indeed, it really helps to see the connection between the Making Cities Resilient campaign and what we are now implementing with our partners more strongly, which is the Making Cities Resilient 2030. I'm sure a few of the cities are wondering, how do we decide, how do we know which stage we're in? And just to let you know that the stage assessment is basically 3 questions, and probably Mai will actually show us how to go about this later on. I'm sure she will. So just hold your horses, this is coming. There is a concern from one of our participants on the fact that we have been holding, I'm assuming that we is not just UNDRR, but also partners. We've been holding meetings and making deliberations, but then there is still a gap in how the deliberations get to the people to change their lives. And this is something that we are really trying to work towards in the collaboration that we have with our partners in MCR 2030. So without much further ado, please let me introduce Ms. Mutarika Pruksapong. In case you find that a mouthful, you can just call her Mai and she will respond. Mai, please take the floor and take us through your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Isabel. So let me try to share my screen. You can see it all well?
Yes, we see it.
Yeah, I just need to arrange some of the windows so I don't block myself. Okay, so I'll be sharing with you and show you about the tools that we're using in MCR 2030 that is different from the Making City Resilient campaign. And this is so-called the MCR 2030 dashboard. Let's take a look at what it actually is and how it can help the cities to progress much further on the resilience roadmap. So the dashboard, we call it short as a dashboard, is a closed online space that we use to engage with the cities and participating entities that join the MCR 2030. And by the term participating entities, this is actually referred to partners, organization. It can be the UN agency, it can be NGO, it can be national governments, national association, academia, media, and etc. And the whole dashboard is designed around this resilience roadmap that Andy was mentioning about, to be able to help onboard the cities and walk the city through from stage A in building awareness into stage B in terms of improving the planning skills, and also in stage C to take the implementation of the actions that they have identified in the planning. And it's a primary tool that MCR 2030 provide to facilitate that meetup between the cities and the participating entities, and also support cities to access a lot of the tools and knowledge to progress along the resilience roadmap. And by joining MCR 2030, you're automatically entitled to have the access to the dashboard. There are actually 2 groups of users that can access the dashboard. one being the city or local governments. And we actually use the term cities for simplicity, but actually it doesn't only means the big cities. And to what Andy was also mentioning, we coined the term cities here for the MCR 2030, but it actually does cover all local governments, subnational level authorities. That could be municipality, it could be town, it could be districts, provinces, states, and many other forms that you have within your countries. And the other group is the participating entity, which I already has mentioned that it could be any agencies, UN, NGO, CSO, academia, private sectors, or any organization that have the capacities and the expertise to provide the cities with support at any point in resilience building. Andy also mentioned that we have already some partners, entities joining this MCR 2030 dashboard that provide like capacity building trainings. We also have those who are providing climate analysis, climate assessment. We also have like different type of service provider, private sector that can help also with utilities and finance sectors in terms of bond issuance, for example. Now, the dashboard is the architecture that we built online to help support the cities and partners. Now, let's take a look at what cities users and participating entity user can actually do on the dashboard. We'll start first with the city users. Once you log into the dashboard, you'll see a lot of stuff there. And one part is this resilience roadmap, which give you also the stage where you are. In this case, the city is in stage B, and the diagram also reminds the cities that in stage B, they have to also continue to improve about understanding risk, improve about taking the agnostic assessment to understand risk and identify the gaps, and be able to improve the planning to address risk reduction and resilience building. Also, they should be focusing on, for example, the connection with the national government, in connection with the partners within the cities, and also in making connections with other cities around the globe. The dashboard gives the cities this resilience roadmap and tell them where they are along this journey. Cities can actually search for specific service, expertise organizations that can support them in taking these actions on improving risk, in improving the planning mechanism, and also be able to move from stage B to stage C and take the plan into implementation. It also illustrates the required steps that the city should be doing. So stage B, we ultimately want the cities to have the disaster risk reduction and resilience plan and strategies in place, get them endorsed by the city council or those in authority within your cities, and then move on to take it on implementation. The dashboard will classify the expertise support from organization and other tips provided by other cities according to these thematic areas and the required step that cities need to take. So it can help the city to understand better who they should go to in case they need support in particular steps along the way. And cities also can report achievement that they have completed, development of the plan, then have completed the endorsement of the plan and move along the resilient journey into the next step. Cities, as I said, can search for the participating entities and their service, and they can do so by, browsing through the list of the service and participating entities. Also, they have the option to use the search filter to slice and dice and see particular service. You can slice and dice, for example, if you're looking for capacity building support. You can also search particularly for example, technical assistance, grant and loans, and many other forms of support, and also search whether that service is free to use or may require some fee that you have to pay for the service. And then you will be able to make connection with these participating entities and contact them that you want to use their service and start to create collaboration with the partners. Cities also can share insights an experience of how you actually progress along the resilience roadmap, and the lesson learned in how you actually do any steps in risk reduction or resilience building, make them visible to the rest of the world. And here also, we have already some cities sharing the insights on how they have conducted, for example, the orientation workshop on resilience building with the city and staff within the cities. They also give tips on what benefits they see from taking this action and obstacle that they have faced, and also provide the tips of how they overcome it. So it's a really good place for the cities to showcase their progresses and their achievements, so that it becomes visible to other cities around the world. Other cities can benefit from your city's achievements, and also partners can also see how you're doing and be able to also echo out the good practices to other platforms. And it also helps the cities to be able to connect with other cities and exchanges about more of what they've been doing, and connect for any collaboration, twinning cities learning opportunities. We also have the country page on the dashboard that give like a summary of how many cities within that country has joined, and break them down in different stage, how many cities are in stage A, B, and C. Also the stories that have been shared by the cities in that particular countries, and also the service providers available in your geographic coverage. It will also give a space dedicated to national governments to be able to provide your cities the guidance, and also make connection, tap into seeing the experience of your cities, and be able to foster more communication and connection among or within the cities on resilience building. You can also download the certificate of participation. And of course, there are also many other media and images, graphics that you can use also to help promote your engagement in MCR 2030 and use it for publicity. Users can also add team members into this city profile in the dashboard. So in the dashboard here, we require one person to create the profile for one city. So it's like one person creating the house. And once the house is built, that person can give out the keys to other members, so that more than one members of the cities can join the same house, can see the same view, can do a lot of stuff from the city perspective together as a team. And city will be able to update all of the profiles, informations to help improve also the connection with other partners and cities around the world. Now switch to the other angle. What can participating entities do on the dashboard? So participating entities can actually list the service. And by listing the service, it helps the cities to be able to search and understand that how your service is contributing to the different thematic areas of the resilience roadmap. So city will have an easier directory and access to specific expertise that you're providing that matching with their needs. And participating entities can also see a lot of the features that I described that cities could see. You can also source for good examples from the cities and search for the cities that you want to collaborate or potential collaboration, create potential collaborations. You can also seek other partners that have been on the MCR 2030, understand what services they're providing, and see the complementarity between your service and your partner service, and create the partnership and collaboration to support any particular cities together. And there are many more into the dashboard that the user can do. And so we do encourage you to check it out. And just to bring it up a little bit about listing the service. So as I said, one of the pain points that we have seen the cities mentioning in the past year is that there are just so many partners around the world that doing a lot of things related to resilience, but they don't understand what they actually these partners do, and where do this fit along this resilience journey. And so classifying the service according to stage A, B, and C, cities will be able to see, I'm in stage A, I have to focus on awareness raising and build like the foundation of the cities and creating the multi-agencies collaboration and building platform governance system for resilience building in the city. So I would be able to find, okay, this is the partners that have that specificity of the service providing to my cities. And I don't have to look at like, more advanced service, like, source of funding or like building certain things that is still not matching with the needs that my city is facing now. And by listing the service in the dashboard really helps to simplify a little bit of how the city can search for your service and be able to get connected with you. So that said, just by joining the MCR 2030, you can join by different venues. You can visit the website and click all of these buttons. You can also go directly to the dashboard, which I provide the QR code here and also the URL here, and just sign on into the dashboard and be able to access all these functions that I just mentioned now. So I'll give you also just a little bit of the live screening of the dashboard. And I'm logging into the dashboard as a municipality ABC, which is a test municipality, making progress in stage B. And a city is hypothetically located in the Gambia. So when I log on to the dashboard, I would see here that I'm in stage B in a stage progress bar at the top. It also shows me that I'm in stage B here. I can see also that there are over 385 cities now joining, covering over 170 million population. There are also peer cities, 97 of them that are in stage B as my city. And here are the maps of where they are. You can also play to see how more and more cities have been joining the MCR 2030. You can also click to see in the circle how many cities are joining from these countries. You can also filter to see where the city in stage B are, so that you can perhaps like make a connection with them. You can also filter to the country page by clicking the countries and the region here. So let me try to click Gambia. That's my country. So I can see that in the Gambia, oh, sorry if it's too small. In the Gambia, we have 5 cities joining, including my hypothetical cities and many other cities in the Gambia. We also have seen that the National Disaster Management Agency of the Gambia also has joined the MCR 2030 and used the MCR 2030 to support the cities in the Gambia. There are also the list of partner agencies, participating entities that are providing the service to the Gambia. There is one base in the Gambia, which is the NDMA, and there are also 33 other participating entities, 32 other participating entities that provide the service for the Gambia, the Gambian cities. And you can also see and browse to see like what these services are. You can also search for the service, as I said, by clicking here. Complete lists of those are providing service in stage B. You can also see the type of the service provider supporting it entity, whether the service is fee-based or free of charge. You can also see the national government label and the type of different entities, and also the location of where the partner agency is based. You can also look for other cities that have joined. You can see there are cities in Korea, there are cities in Uganda, there are cities in Bangladesh, Brazil that also have joined. And you can filter and search for, the cities with similar interest, similar steps that you're working by region. You can also click to see the insights provided by the cities. So these are the tips provided by state C cities in taking the implementation of the DR and resilience actions. There are cities that provide the insight for stage A in doing the orientation workshop with the city council. There are also other cities that provide some tips for state B, and you can filter and search through all of this. And here is where you download the certificate of participation, and doing all of other team management and many other things in the dashboard that I just mentioned. So I'll leave the dashboard introduction just at this point, and happy to take immediate questions for now before I switch to another presentation of how you can join. So perhaps like over to Isabel in case there is any thing that we can intervene in between.
Thank you, Mai. Maybe to start with, maybe you can tell us of how the dashboard is helping us in terms of moving from what you call words into action. Referring to the earlier comment about having a lot of meetings deliberating important issues that affect, you know, the lives of people, but then seeing very little action when it comes to impacting the lives of these people. So how do we move from, how is the dashboard helping us move from words to action and actually seeing impact in the lives of the communities?
Thanks, Isabel. I think one of the challenges a lot of local governments have is that they don't know where to go to in case they need help to take actions. So even though you have ideas, you might not be able to take it forward, right? And so the dashboard is there to help the cities to be able to access and see if there are any tips and tools or partners that have that specific expertise that can help you unlock the challenge that you're facing so that you can actually move into taking some actions and, you know, and proceed forward. So we also have seen, like, you know, in the clear example, for example, there are cities that have done and developed the DRR action plans, for example, DRR strategies. But some of these plans have not yet been taken into actions because of the lack of funding. Right. So here on the dashboard, one of the thematic area is also to increase access to finance. So there are a lot of partners that are listing the service to help cities access finance. And that could be, you know, in helping to convert the plan into the, what do you call, bankable projects. And there are also agencies who help you to do the feasibility studies. There are also like partners who can help you to develop the foundation to issue bonds, for example. Or there are also partners who actually provide seed funding to take some actions. And so the more that we have the partners joining the dashboard, the more variety of different services that there will be available for the cities to tap into and be able to move into concrete action. And so that we do hope that the dashboard will serve that purpose to be like a marketplace to bring cities and partners together, and you will be able to source into useful information and tools to take forward your steps.
Thank you. Actually, my next question was going to be on how the dashboard can maybe help with its national agencies or even the local governments themselves to have a coherent manner in which to work with the many partners. We've seen instances where several partners will come into the same jurisdiction, whether it's a national level or local level, and trying to do related activities, but then not speaking to each other. So how do you think the dashboard actually helps these kind of setups when it comes to national agencies coordinating local activities, as well as, you know, coordinating with the partners as well?
Right. So as I said, like the gist of the dashboard is designed around this resilience roadmap and the thematic areas. And partners, when they list the service, they join the dashboard, they have to classify the expertise according to these thematic areas, right? So like, for example, UNDRR, we provide capacity building and support cities in doing awareness raising. So we can tell right away that our service fit for cities in stage A and B very clearly. But we don't have the expertise to help the cities to create funding. But by looking in the dashboard, we can browse and see who are the potential partners that can provide the service in terms of, for example, this clear one providing support in terms of accessing finance, right? And then we can also see from their profile of where they are providing the service to. And so by looking at all of those initial information, we can easily reach out and dialogue with the partner and see, like, you know, why don't we partner into a project, or maybe, like, if not a project, just make sure that if a city, for example, finished the business with UNDRR developing the DR strategies, we can also refer the cities to, okay, why don't you reach out to these partners? They have the service available to help you access finance, and then we help to bridge the cities with that particular partner to move on into the activity we can. And so in that way, it does help us to align the service according to the, that progress of the resilience roadmap, and see the complementarity and where it connects. And by doing that, I think it gives us some improved intelligence in how we can work together more effectively. And I mean, national government can easily use that as well to be able to tap into who they think could provide service to the cities in their countries in that particular point in time of what they need.
Fantastic. I don't know if we can take one question from the floor. I see we have 2 raised hands. I can't see the second one. Who is the second person? So we have Charlotte, who has their hand raised from Ghana. We can give her 2 minutes maybe. And then we can hear also from Lamin from the Gambia speaking for 2 minutes. Charlotte, please take the floor. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah, okay. So good morning, and I think my question is, in using the dashboard, is there an intermediary, or would one be addressing the partners directly? Because if you find that perhaps you need to access a certain partner for a specific thing, like maybe capacity building or something, is there an intermediary, or you're going to be dealing directly with the partners within maybe your country, in country? Thank you. My second question is, I think I'll wait till she goes into the details of the dashboard again, because it has to do with the one person being able to log in, etc. I'm wondering, do you have a specific requirement of who should set the ball rolling per country? So I think this is my question, 2 questions. Thank you.
Yeah,
Mai, do you want to hear Lamin's as well, so you can handle them together? They might be related. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Lamin, please, let's hear from you. Let me allow you to talk. Okay. Just unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hi, Lamin.
Hi. Thank you for brilliant presentations. I think we have covered so many things. I just want to ask only one question.
Please speak up, Lamin. I cannot hear you very clearly.
Can you hear me now?
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. What I just want to ask is regarding the certificate. And I remember, I think I was communicating with you yesterday. Yeah. This morning I came in late. Sorry about that. And then I was unable to capture that area. Unfortunately, if she can, help us regarding that aspect on how to acquire the certificate from the dashboard.
Okay, so Mai will cater to the.
I didn't quite get the question from Lamin. Can you recap?
So Lamin is asking about the certificates. He wants to know whether they are accessible on the website or how to access them.
Yes. Okay. So let me go first into the questions about contacting the partners. So here, all the partners will have to list, the description about themselves. So I'm using the case of Getty because that's, we know it's our service, so we know what we put in there. So here in Getty, there are also like some information on the reference of the cities that we have worked with, and there is this button about sending email to the participating entities. So if you are the city users, you can automatically click send the inquiry or message to this partner agency and have the direct communication with them. We don't have any intermediary service to do any sourcing or anything for you, so you can have completely free and direct communication with the partners. Now this is when you see only the partner profile, but if you scroll down, you can see the different type of service that this partner is providing. right? So there is orientation session that can support with the city in stage A. There are also different trainings, capacity building programs that can help city in stage B. And so if you are interested in any of this, for example, and you want to see the details, there are some description about it. It's a training and education type. It helps the cities to improve the diagnostic skills and improve the way that you can do the planning. It contributes to helping the cities to develop DRR and resilience strategies. And also there is this pink box here and say next steps and requirement. So all partners will have to should be putting the prerequisites on what the cities needs to have before they can access this service. So in this case, Getty is saying that training requires 1 or 2 day festive days, cost is customizable, and cities shall be responsible for convening the participants representing multi-stakeholders, multi-sectors for the training. And participant will need a computer to complete the group work. So these are like giving some pre-requirements, and if the city feel that they meet this requirement, right, they can also again send the email to Getty and say that I'm interested to have the training conducted for my city, or like, you know, a group of the cities in my countries, for example. And you can start to do the communication with the partner and start the collaboration. So I hope that answered the first question. Now the second question on certificate, right? So basically you go into the city basics on the left side of the screen. There will be the pink button, not pink, sorry, purple button to download the certificate. So you basically just click that and then the certificate will be ready. So it will show the name of the municipality with also the signature of our co-chairs, Mamit Misteri from UNDRR and Emilia Sayas from Secretary General of UCLG. And you can print this and also use for any publicities that you need. Some countries have a lot of cities with the same names. So you might want to put also the state name in the certificate. So you can just toggle this on and re-download the certificate, and then the certificate will print both the city names and the state name in there. So, you know, there are a variety that you can use in this option. Then the last question is about adding the team members, right? So here, my name is Jan Smith. I'm logging in as a municipality ABC officer. Now I want to add Isabel, who is my colleague working in this same municipality. I basically just go to the left side. There is a section on manage my team, and I can just click add team members and type in Isabel's email address, and then assign the role and permission. There are 2 types. One is administrator and one is user. Basically, both of the user roles can access all functions of the dashboard, except that the administrator will be able to add, delete, and manage team members, while user will be just a simple user and don't have the ability to add the members. So by typing the email of your colleagues, invite team member, then your colleagues can actually use their email address to log into the dashboard. That email address, though, have to be the member of the prevention web, which I will explain what it is in the next presentation. So I hope that covers all the 3 key questions that was asked in this round. Over.
Yeah, there was a component that in Charlotte's question, and she asked about who is the best person to actually set the ball rolling. Like, I think, is it from the city or from the national, whichever way, like who's the first person to actually like do the profile and so on?
Yeah, it's totally up to the cities to decide. Some cities has a structure with a dedicated unit looking after risk and resilience. Some cities have, like, for example, chief resilience officer, so that those have the responsibility directly to do anything about risk and resilience to start off with. So there could be the right and the first people, you know, group of people to register for the cities and bring on board other members. Some don't have such dedicated department, so it also depends on how the city mayors may assign a focal point in charge of resilience or in charge of MCR 2030. Or if it's facilitated by the national government office like NDMA, you may already have the focal points that you have direct communication with when you want to roll out like risk reduction actions, guidance, and etc. So you can actually nominate them and invite them to be the first person to join for the municipality, for the cities. And then the city will be able to add any other members onward. Yeah.
Okay, let's take the last hand and then you move on to the next presentation. I'll allow Evelyn to ask her question. Evelyn, please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you, Isabel. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, you can.
Great, great. Then I can go ahead. Thank you, Mai, for that presentation. I think you have helped me understand quite a lot, things that I've been missing out on in the past. Actually, I had not been able to log in on the dashboard for quite long because of those issues, but now I think I'm learning quite a thing. But I just have a few questions. You know, you were saying that, yes, of course, we log in, you know, as a city. It's just one person who logs in, probably the one that has been, that is in the kind of the secretariat. But then there are these members on the disaster management committee, the local government, for example. So does it mean that each of these can be given rights to load data on the dashboard according to our progress, whatever they are doing in their different sections? Are they free to just go in and upload, and, you know, do we just give everyone a right to upload stuff? And then the other question is, for example, if my city requires support or training in a certain area, and we have identified a partner, who bears the costs of this training? Remember, the members of the disaster management committee, or maybe the community that we want to train in a particular idea. Maybe there is that community. Who bears the cost, issues of transport, issues of, you know, those costs, whatever costs that may be involved in a training? Who bears such costs, and how do we go about them? Or maybe if the people to be trained have to be lifted to be taken someplace for the training, who bears such costs? I'd like to know.
Okay. Thanks, Evelyn. So first question first. If when you manage the team members, you can add as many team members as you want. So in the managed team member, there will be a sections of listing out who are the administrators, who are the users. You can have as many users as possible. So let's say if you have the what do you call the resilience risk reduction and resilience committee, for example, in the cities, and there are 10 members in that committee, and you want to add all 10 of them in here, you can. And all 10 of them will be able to see the profile of municipality ABC the same way that I can see. You know, if everyone see the same functions and can access all the functions, meaning that they also have the right to add any comments, any functions, can search for the partners, can send emails, can upload the insights, can also share experience, etc. So, but it's also within the cities to decide. When it doesn't mean that you have 10 people adding to the dashboard, they have access. But if you agreed among the group that you have 10 people that can access the dashboard, but we only want 1 or 2 persons in the team to be able to actually take the role and responsibility and update some contents, you can do it offline with your team. No? And you can also like keep switching, or like, you know, do whatever arrangement that you see feasible and appropriate within your team. But all of them will have the same features, same functions to access all functions of the dashboard similarly, except that the users won't be able to add and manage team member. That's the only thing, only difference you will find. Now, the second questions about using the service and partners. Right, you'll see that each of the partners will list the service in different ways. So here you will see that the service here, let's assume that all of this is capacity building. So you will see like some partners will provide a service with fee base, meaning that, you know, you have to pay some fee, and it will be bilateral between your city and this partner to decide if most of the time when I see it, when it's fee-based, the partner would expect that the city pay the partner for the service to use. But for the service that have no fee-based icon, meaning that it's perhaps available for free, right? You just basically have to look into this requirement, whether there is any specific writing or request from the partners of who is going to bear cost, which, or how it's going to be delivered. So like in the example of Getty training, we can provide the training for free. We don't charge the fee, but we put that the cities should be responsible for convening the participants. So meaning that any cost that you would need to bring in your team members to be in the training, then the city should be bearing that cost, right? But then Getty does not charge for the professionals fee on the trainers' fees to be, or if we do like for example, on-site training, flying to your cities, we don't charge your cities on the cost of our transportation of the trainers from wherever our trainers is located to your country, for example. So that really depends on each of the partners and the service they provide. And all of the information is supposed to be available in how they describe the services in the dashboard. So you would just have to browse and go through all of these details and filter out, filter in the one that you want to use the service and contact them.
Yeah, thanks, Mai. As you load your next presentation, just to reiterate to our participants that you will receive a recording of this webinar as well as the presentations that have been made so that you can make reference to them. So worry not, we got you. Okay, Mai, the floor is yours again.
Okay, so now important part, how do we access this dashboard? So how do we join MCR and access the dashboard? There are actually 4 big steps into the sign-up process. One is taking the stage assessment and preparing the letter of commitment. Second is to create the prevention web account. Then thirdly, go to the dashboard and create the dashboard account, and then complete your city profile. Let's take a look at the first one first, in taking the stage assessment. It's a simple questions. I already dropped the URL in the chat earlier, and Isabel, if you can, redrop the chat, the link in the chat box again, in case that some participants have missed it from the beginning. So the resilience roadmap questions are short. Now we have only about maximum 3 questions, simple yes and no answer, that will help the cities to understand whether there are in stage A, B, or C. And the survey, the stage assessment is also available in different languages. And so if you are national governments, for example, that do not speak English, and you want to have this stage assessment done in your local languages, just reach out to us. We can provide you the text, and we can help you. You help to translate the text, and we can embed that into into this stage assessment so that your city can use very easily. Once you complete the stage assessment, it will tell you which stage you are, and you can learn more about that stage by clicking the website. And you can also download the sample template of the letter of commitment at the bottom for your mayors to sign. Now, the cities that have already made commitments in the previous Making City Resilient campaign do not need to redo this commitment letter again. And so with the cities that have been certified with the ISO 37123 on the resilient cities indicators, will also not need to do this template of the letter of commitment, but can use the certificate of the ISO 37123 in replacement. So that's the steps done. And now the second step is to create the Prevention Web account. Many of you may be familiar with Prevention Web. Prevention Web is actually the portal, the credentials that we use to access a lot of the UNDRR portals, Sendai Framework Monitoring platforms, voluntary commitment for the Sendai Framework implementation. What else? Prevention Web itself, which is the global portal that houses a lot of knowledge about risk reduction and resilience. Now, before creating the Prevention Web account, again, you have to decide who is going to be the first one to create dashboard account for your cities. And as I said, it can be anyone in your local government office. If you already have a chief resilient officer and person responsible for risk reduction and resilience, that could be the right person to start. And again, like this person can always add more team members to the same platform. So, just pick one to get started. Now go to the prevention web account. Go to prevention web registration page using this URL that I show on the site, and just simply type your email address, first name, last name, and completing all of this required information, click that I'm not a robot and click create a new account. If you already have the prevention web account from before, you can pass and skip this step and go right into the dashboard creation. If you don't, just register and create the prevention web account following this instruction. So once you click create new account here, it will show that the welcome message with further instruction has been sent to your email address. You just have to check your email address. You will find the email address and you just click this link in the email that will take you to complete the login step. So you complete also like the title, organization, position, and other details, and set the password for your prevention web account. And the password has to be 12 characters, upper, lower cases, with numbers and with like all of those marks, the symbols, and click save. Once you've done that, it will show that you have registered successfully, and meaning that your email address is now ready to be used to create the dashboard account. So go into the third step into creating the dashboard account by visiting this URL, MCR2030 dashboard.undrr.org. The dashboard is provided also in many languages, so you can toggle and choose the language that you prefer on the top right-hand corner of the dashboard. Click, select local government and click next to proceed. You will be prompted to double confirm that no one else in your local government has signed up for the dashboard before. So if someone from your local government has already signed up, just go to that person and ask that person to add you into that team. No? But if you are sure that no one else in your city has signed up, basically just select no to confirm that no one has signed up before, and then click continue. Let's get ready to continue. You will be prompted to log in with your prevention web account. So you just type in your email address and password that you created for prevention web and click login. It will automatically connect between prevention web and the dashboard. Then you will be asked to fill in the basic information about your cities. So trying to make sure that you fill in the information first in English, and you will be able to fill in other languages later on in the detailed part. So in the city basics, it will ask you to select which city you are from, select the state, and also the name of your local governments. Make sure that you select it in the sequence, otherwise it will give you the error. If your state or city name is not in the list, just simply click not in the list and manually type your city names in this empty box. Make sure that you type your city names and state's name in English so that everyone can read what your city names and the state names are. Now, it will also ask whether you have been the member of the previous MCR campaign, yes or no. Type in the number of your population. Also confirm if you have been a certified city of ISO 37123. Provide here which stage of your local governments, A, B, or C, and you can take that the result from the stage assessment that I introduced in the first step. If you forgot to take the stage assessment, you can always go back and take it whenever you need to. Then you will be asked to upload the letter of commitment, and this is only for the cities that are not certified by ISO 37123 and also not the previous member of the MCR campaign. And just fill in like who signed that letter, us information. Click proceed to review. Review the information. If there is anything that you need to change, just click edit my details. If not, then simply confirm the privacy policy, terms and condition, click I agree, and then click join. And there you go. You are now in the MCR2030 dashboard, and you create the city profile on the dashboard. You have the option to go right onto the dashboard with this purple icon and basically access like all the features that I just showed you in the previous part of today's session, or you can go to complete my city profile. I do recommend that you go to complete your city profile because it will help us to understand more of what your city is looking for. And so it will help you to increase also the ability to connect with other partners and cities around the world. So what will you be asked in the detailed profile completion? There are 4 sections about the city description, your main focus, the type of hazard that you are experiencing, and the type of approach that you're using to connect with your citizens, the city, the public within your cities. So here in the description, you will be asked to provide like some short paragraph about your cities, what you're interested in, what you have been doing, and anything that you want to tell others about your cities. Then you have the option at the bottom to also provide a similar description in your local language in case that you want to also facilitate the connection better with the cities within your countries or the cities that speak the same language as you. You will be asked also whether you are capital cities, whether you have the second city official names, and also provide the website of your cities, which could be the official website about the cities. It could also be, for example, if you use regularly some social media outlets, you can use that. Or if you have, like, for example, some city profile on Prevention Web, or some city profile in other initiative, anything that would be able to give us more information about the cities, you can put your URL here. Then ask again, like how your population has changed over the year. Then in the second group on asking about the city focus, you will be asked about what you are focusing to accomplish in the next year in terms of risk reduction and resilience building, and also in terms of anything related to your strategies, whether it's seeking fundings, doing the monitoring mechanism, etc. Then the third group is to tell us about the hazards that you have been exposed to in the past decades. And lastly, the type of methods that you're using to communicate with your citizens. And that's it. You just click Save Profile, and you can always come back and edit it anytime, clicking on the left side menu bar on the dashboard on the city basics or the city details. You can also view your profile to see how it looks to others users, and there you go. That's it. And you will be able to use the dashboard for the first time, which all of this I have already explained in the previous presentation. So I will stop my presentation here, and over to you, Isabel.
Thank you, Mai. Thank you very much. Just to point out to especially our city representatives from cities that were members of the Making Cities Resilient campaign and whose mayors or city managers have changed, we have seen situations where the current leader wants to also ascertain that it is them who have committed to the Making Cities Resilient 2030 initiative. So when you get to the question on whether you were previously a member of the campaign, just click no, so that you're able to also attach the letter from the mayor. We need happy leadership, because that's the only way we're going to make progress in this world. So the progress in Africa has been quite interesting, and we so far have 14 because the 15th one is my hypothetical city. We have 14 cities.
I'll be deleting that off from the dashboard after the session today, so you will have the correct information.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have 14 cities in the south of the Sahara, Africa, and about, I think, 20 or so in the North Africa. But just to point out that we've seen interesting collaborations led by the national agencies. And I see one from Uganda is actually represented here. Just to give us an overview is that in the Gambia, we've seen leadership for the initiative being given by the national agency that is in charge of disaster management in the country. But in Uganda, the initiative is actually being championed by the Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development. And we have a representative from the ministry here with us today, and she'd like to give us her comments with regards to how the initiative is doing in her country. So Martha, let me allow you first to speak as you share your thoughts on this. Please take the floor, Martha. Just unmute yourself.
Hello, Isabel, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes, we hear
Hi.
you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for introducing us to this platform. My name is Martha Mugara. I work in the central government ministry charged with the urban sector. The urban sector is composed of the cities, municipalities, town councils, and town boards in that hierarchical order. And we support these urban centers to develop strategically, to develop urban plans, to develop projects, specific infrastructure projects to deliver urban services. When we received this invitation to join the platform, we had prior made a collective effort to join each of the cities. We, as Uganda, have 10 cities operational. In the year 2020, government declared 15 new cities in Uganda. But to kickstart the process, 10 cities were operationalized effective 1st of July 2020. So these 10 cities first came together under the UG Cities for Resilience platform. This platform was to help these cities come together, understand the issues of climate change, and also to build urban resilience. As we know it today, climate change is a recent consideration in the planning for sustainable cities. And so this platform was to enhance this new calling and engagement at the stakeholder level, the stakeholders being the cities. So together, if these cities under one platform can look at the issues that affect them in terms of climate change, building resilience, understanding the risks at hand for their cities, then they can start to shape and form better interventions that will address the current and the future problems. So with the MCR 2030, it was just another addition to the UG Cities for Resilience platform. And each of the cities have now been encouraged to join the MCR 2030. Out of the 10 cities, we have 4 cities that have already signed up. As a ministry, we are supporting the other cities to also sign up. Right now, I'm in a city called Mbale, supporting them to complete their sign up process. And once we have at least these first 10 and other municipalities on board, then we can start to experience the change in sharing information, in gathering our own information, making decisions based on information, and also being able to tap into the resources, the other tertiary users, how they would better understand the impacts of the information that is available on the dashboard, being able to also provide data and find data. And if we find data that is not good enough, we can improve it, and so help other decision makers arrive at a better informed decision. So for us, this is a welcome move. We are going to continue to drive this process. And even as a ministry, we need to have this information to be able to create new policy that will guide the local governments. So thank you very much, Isabella and team, and for the visibility that we shall gain. We are so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Martha. So our time is well spent, but of course I can spare a few minutes for our presenters to give us their final thoughts as we prepare to close. Andy, do you have your final thoughts in 1 minute and a half?
Oh, and I can do even better than that, Isabel. Nothing to say. I thought the questions are excellent, and I think this is about translating into real action. It's not easy, and there's no guarantee for success. But as you and others have said, there is that need to provide intermediary support to cities who are really willing and just need to be a little bit more able. So I look forward to even more cities joining MCR 2030 from Africa, but not only that, sharing their own experience, hopefully more positive than negative, in addressing resilience. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Mai, do you have your final thoughts for us?
Yes, I think it's I think you can see also how like the architecture of the dashboard is intended to provide and support the cities in the resilience building journey. Although the success of it relies on how many cities actually join and how many participating entities actually join. And so we really need to make sure that we are able to bring in more partners and more cities into the platform for it to be able to facilitate that richness of the knowledge and exchanges. And so everyone who is in the dashboard, you can take a lot out in there, but at the same time, I would also encourage all of you to put in so that it create that cycle and circle of exchanges, and that we can all benefit and be able to grow stronger in resilience building together. And we didn't mention at all today that MCR 2030, well, the name suggests already that it's 2030. So we are looking in the long term to take this forward into the next 10 years. So let's work together, and we hope that we'll be able to bring some changes and see some impact together in the future.
Yes,
thanks.
Thank you so much, Mai. And I just remembered that we probably did not mention that the named cities in the Making Cities Resilient 2030 does not necessarily lock out other local governments that are not cities. It's just, it's a catchy phrase, so we decided to just keep the branding from the campaign. But essentially, we're dealing with all kinds of local governments, be it municipalities. In some countries, it'll be villages. In some countries, it'll be towns or regions, or whatever subnational administrative units exist actually can be beneficiaries of the MCR 2030. So in closing, I'd like to really thank my colleagues for their engagement in this particular session and for facilitating it. It's really been a pleasure to hear you. I'm usually the one speaking a lot, so today has been very nice to really just sit back and hear and see a different perspective as well. And to our participants for joining and for spending this time with us and for engaging us as we try to, move this initiative forward in our region. And as well as, we actually just look forward to enhancing local resilience in general within our region and even beyond, with the help of, under the leadership of our global Education and Training Institute. That name just always misses me. And we also look forward to strengthening our collaboration with governments, stakeholders, with our partners, all in the implementation of the Making Cities Resilient 2030 initiative. Thank you all for your engagement, and have a great rest of your day. We will be sharing the recording, we will be sharing the presentations on email. Thank you, and goodbye from me.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, friends. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks all, and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you so much, Isabel and Mai, and everyone. Have a nice time.
Thank you too, and have a good one.
you.